I'm sure for the few people who have watched most of my videos, somebody knew this was coming. I mean, I have watched a lot of his videos over the, I don't know, decade or however long he's been putting content out. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I definitely started watching his stuff when I was in my mid-20s. So, yeah, I enjoy most of it. But I think for all the things that he talks about, there's I guess, one grouping of phones that I feel, everybody gives Apple a pass. And then I also feel that it's unfortunate that when other companies don't do what Apple does or what the bigger companies do, then, they're looked at kind of with the side eye kind of shunned. So in addition to asking you to subscribe, I'd like to tell you about today's video sponsor, Patti LaBelle's Southern Peach Cobbler with extra crust. And I'm holding it like this because I got the outside of the box sticky. I don't even like peach cobbler like that, but this mess is good. So I was going to take more time and bring up his previous Sony videos talking about the Sony Xperia 1 and the Sony Xperia 5, but I just don't feel like doing it. I've done that already. I've scrutinized what I felt were, I guess, shortcomings when it comes to the way that he covered some of those devices. And if I could summarize, and then we'll watch a little bit, and this is going to be chopped up and whatever, but mainly he called Sony Xperia devices, mainly the Sony Xperia 1. I think it was just the 1. I don't think he said for the 5, but pretty sure it was just the Sony Xperia 1 Mark whatever, that they were quote unquote enthusiast devices. And what is really troubling as a consumer, and that's really how I look at it, is as a consumer, that there were a few things, and I can only really think about two of them right now, maybe a third one will pop in my head, but a few things that he said, oh, well, these are things that enthusiasts would like. So the first thing is an SD card. The fact that phones used to have those and then companies took them away doesn't mean you're an enthusiast if you still want a device that has one, because, and even in this video right here, which we might get to it, he points out the fact that with these new cameras and these new recording capabilities, I think he said it's like almost, depending on the setting that you choose, it could be upwards of a gigabyte per minute. So that's going to consume your storage insanely fast. And it would be nice if, and I know Apple never did it, but it would be nice if Apple one day was like, you know what? We put, whether it's an SD card or even their proprietary removable media, something to say, hey, I don't need to make my storage decisions at buy time. I should be able to update stuff later on. But, according to this gentleman with almost 20 million subscribers, that's something an enthusiast would like. And I would also like to point out, and again, if I were a better YouTuber, I'd have clips of it right now, but it was one of the Pro phones in the last couple of years where if you got the 128 gigabyte version of that device, it just would not let you record in one of the video formats because Apple knew, oh crap, it's going to consume too fast. So we're just going to say, if you have 128, you can't shoot in that. Now, and at least with the Pro Max, I don't think with the Pros, but I think with the Pro Maxes, they start at 256. So they're just, hey, we know you're going to consume the space probably, whether it's through videos, pictures, or applications, whatever. So let's not start a Pro device at 128 gigs, but it is what it is. The other, and this is the thing that is pretty unique to Sony, is the fact that Sony phones, and I don't have mine with me that I bought 8 years ago, has a dedicated camera button. You press it and it opens the camera, and then you can soft press it to kind of focus, and then you can press it even further to have it actually take a picture. And I've made other videos about that demonstrating that it's not a new concept, but the issue is that prior to this device, the iPhone 16, and even with the stupid action button that came on the Pros last year, what Apple decided to do was give the phone the right number of buttons. You have the volume up, volume down, and a power button. And whereas with a lot of Android devices, and this is not an Android versus iOS conversation, but with Android devices, you can sometimes, either double press the power button and that will open the camera, or you could double press or triple press the power button and have it open another application. But Apple decided to dedicate a double press to Apple Pay. Why did they do that? Can you change it? I don't think you can. I mean, maybe you can in accessibility. I honestly don't know. But that's what Apple decided to do. And again, if you can change it, cool. But by default, it's, hey, we are going to tell you what double press does. So the fact that Sony phones and then Android phones just have other ways to open the camera, whether it's a dedicated button or a button that you can assign that functionality, doesn't seem like that's an enthusiast thing. But what I would have liked him to say, because I've already watched the video, is that, I mean, like, he just doesn't even mention Sony, which I don't need him to. But again, as a consumer, it really is one of those things where, man, he's gonna get, I'm gonna say 5 million views on this video. And it's because that's what happens when he makes Apple content. Well, when I make Apple content, I don't get a lot of views, which I actually like, because I don't really like talking about the company, nor do I like using their flagship device. But anyway, but yeah, it would have been not even nice. But it's just, hey, you essentially criticized another company for doing this exact same thing. But here, once Apple does it, it's kind of nice. It's kind of cool. I mean, yeah, this button is a little more advanced than Sony is just, button. I mean, because this thing is capacitive and you can do other things besides just take the photo or just open the camera app. But the core concept is the same. And, like I pointed out that with other devices, and I know you can't really see it, but here on my Zen phone, that little button, it's capacitive because it recognizes my fingerprint when I unlock it. And I believe I can set a setting where I can swipe down the little notification shade when I set it to do that when I swipe my finger. So core concept, relatively the same. Apple's just doing it with a camera button instead of something else. It would be nice if Apple said, you know what, let's put a fingerprint reader in there, which I'm sure they could. Don't know how comfortable that would be to hold, because as he and other people point out, the button is kind of low, but it's not low enough. So I don't know, but hey, if Touch ID came back, that would be kind of cool, because I do prefer Touch ID to Face ID. So that's that. But hopefully this video isn't too long. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the whole thing and I'll pause it when I see fit. But let's get started.
Now, with everything Apple has said about this phone, is that it's unfinished. Like, this is the most unfinished I've ever seen a new iPhone launch. So until we actually have all that Apple Intelligence stuff, we're left with a very incremental upgrade cycle.
And again, while I'm here to speak as a consumer, one, there's nothing wrong with an incremental update. I mean, after 18 years of doing this, or however many years the iPhone's actually been around, I know this is 16, but there were some S's, but then we skipped a number. So whatever. At some point, yeah, that's just going to happen. So that's just that. And how I've learned to look at it too is, even though myself, you watching this maybe, definitely Marquez, people who get phones every year, yeah, it's like, is there much difference between this year's phone and last year's phone? Probably not. Am I going to get it? Yeah, probably still, but is it really worth it? And I am happy, even though I don't completely agree. At the end of the video, he does say, well, if you have an iPhone 13 or older and it's on its last leg, then maybe you should consider buying this one. But one, I'm like, what does on its last leg actually mean? Do you just need a new battery? Because that's what it sounds like. Just go, pay that $100 or whatever it is to get a new battery in your phone, and then you'll be perfectly fine. So yeah, again, nothing wrong with an incremental update, especially for people who don't buy phones every year. Because yeah, I'm sure getting this phone compared to somebody who has a 13 or a 12, heck, I have a friend right now who has an iPhone 10R who refuses to download iOS 18 because he's worried that it's going to jack up his phone. But whatever. But yeah, if he were to get this phone, yeah, I'm sure it would be a noticeable upgrade.
So there's not a lot actually physically new with this year's iPhone, but it's not nothing. So the iPhone 16 looks a little different from the iPhone 15. There was a moment in time not that long ago where Apple removed the headphone jack, and then there was a ton of speculation about them maybe removing all the ports and all the buttons. But instead, it's gone the opposite way, and they've added the action button from last year's Pros and yet another button called camera control, which we'll get to in a second. Aesthetically, though, there are some really poppy new colors and slightly larger protruding cameras lined up on the back of the phone. And okay, I know everyone puts a case on their phone, so this is probably nothing, but I think this is the wobbliest slab phone I have ever seen, or at least that I can remember. But either way, the rest of the general shape and flat sides and dimensions of this phone are basically the same. It's a very familiar iPhone. The Pro phones are even harder to tell apart, but they do have new displays, and they are great. So they're slightly bigger, 6.3 and 6.9 inches respectively. And the bezels are, I think, actually noticeably thinner and still even all the way around. So both sized phones are just a little larger than last year and fit bigger batteries too. And we should talk about batteries. So when Apple unveiled all these new phones, they made kind of a big deal about how they all have slightly larger capacity batteries across the board, and that the new Pro Max would have the longest battery life ever in an iPhone, which, I mean, I would hope that your newest, most expensive, most high-tech, biggest phone ever is the longest battery, but still, they didn't give any numbers to support that. So we don't actually know how much larger in milliamp hours the battery is or how much longer the battery actually lasts. All I have to go on is Apple's website's comparison tool, which only measures in video playback hours. So it has the iPhone 16 at 22 hours of video playback, up from 20, and the 16 Pro Max is all the way up to 33 hours versus last year's big phone's 29. Unfortunately, this means almost nothing to me because that video playback can be optimized with like cores on a chip. Who cares? But now the phones are out and people have gotten them and torn them apart, measured them. Turns out the batteries are about 6% larger across the board and 9% larger on the Pro.
All right. Now, for those of us who do make videos, sometimes it's nice to, think that your videos have an impact. You would like to think that the companies that you cover actually watch your stuff, because you never know. I mean, I feel like I've said some things that have been problematic for a while, and then finally I say something about it, and next year something changes. So, what he just said, and I probably should go to GSM Arena to see if there's an actual difference, but he said the batteries are roughly 6% larger across the board, and the Pro is 9%. And I wonder, is that the Pro and the Pro Max, or both, or one? But the reason that I say it like that is for years, and I wasn't paying attention, but I finally made a video about it a couple months ago, and I went back in time to show that the battery on the Pro version of that phone that year was smaller than that of the non-Pro version. So case in point, last year, the iPhone 15 Pro, its battery was smaller than that of the regular iPhone 15. Same thing with the 14, 13. I think the 12s, the battery for the regular 12 and the 12 Pro were the same. But then I think for the 11, the battery and the Pro was smaller than that of the, and the 11 Pro was smaller than that in the regular 11. So if he's saying that the size of the Pro got 9% larger as opposed to the 6% for the regular devices, hey, did Apple really, oh crap, maybe this little tiny YouTuber noticed it, so maybe we should actually do something about that. So, but the one thing I will say, and I've said it before in other videos, that again, regardless of what he's saying and what Apple's website says, my opinion is that the batteries are still too small. Because, and please remember, there's a difference between battery size and battery capacity. So just because the phone is small doesn't necessarily mean it has a small battery capacity. Case in point, even Marquez pointed out that in this little Zenfone 9, the battery life of this device is really good. Even though, again, it's a small phone, 4,300 milliamp hour battery, it still doesn't necessarily just depend on the size of the phone. So we'll see. I'll go to GSM Arena one of these days to actually take a look at the size of these batteries, but maybe something I said actually caused something to change. That would be nice.
And I found battery life about the same as last year, to be honest. Like, not noticeably better, not noticeably worse. I end up saying a lot of the same things about it, like it lasts me a whole day on the Pro, heavy use, no problem. What actually did make a difference to me, though, is faster charging. Less people are talking about it, but all of the new iPhone 16 lineup supports up to 45-watt wired charging now. Apple never talks about fast charging. They never brag about like how fast you can go 0 to 100 or 0 to 80%. But when their phones do get slightly faster at charging, it's pretty nice. It's too bad it doesn't come with a fast charging brick in the box.
Now, one thing that I'll mention, and I recorded the video but have not yet uploaded it, is that Mr. Who's the Boss did his battery rundown test of a couple of 16s, a couple of 15s, and a Samsung S24 Ultra, I believe. But at the very end of the video, he talked about the charging speed of the iPhone. And I think it was after 10 minutes, all the phones had reached 22%. So you had the Pro Max, I think the regular 16, and I think the 16 Plus might have been it too. I don't know. But the whole point of even bringing it up is that, Marquez is saying up to 45 watts of charging. And Mr. Who's the Boss, Aaron, when he unplugged the phones or started talking again and all the phones were at 22% after 10 minutes, Aaron said, oh, well, the phones are charging at the same rate. And I'm like, that is not true, because if the battery in the Pro Max is bigger than that of the battery in the regular 16, that means if the Pro Max also reached 22% after 10 minutes, same way that the regular one did, 22% after 10 minutes, that means the Pro Max was actually charging faster. So don't know, capacities or whatever, but up to, every time you hear that, it's, well, in what optimal conditions? Yeah, if you plug in a compatible power brick, is it always going to charge at that rate? I don't know, but just up to 45, cool. Under what conditions? What bricks do you have to buy for the first 30 minutes? Is it 45 watts and does it slow down? Don't know, but that's something that I'm sure somebody will test further in the future.
Fast charger, I am loving the new fast charging in bursts, and also MagSafe supports with the new puck up to.
But I guess, and again, sorry to come right back, but yeah, I'm happy that he's enjoying his fast charging. But again, that's another thing as a consumer, that this isn't an Android versus iOS video, but it's more of a, why give Apple kudos for something that should have been in existence a long time ago? Case in point, and during the editing, if I remember to do it, I'll throw it in here. But OnePlus, no pun intended, I guess, the Charger 1 comes in the box. And in the United States, I believe it's 80-watt charging. And then outside of the United States, it's 100-watt charging. I have a Xiaomi 14 and I bought it used, and the listing said it came with a charging brick, but unfortunately it wasn't the 100-watt charger that the phone should have come with. And, the Vergecast, and again, another thing that if I remember, I'll put a little screenshot on the screen right now, but it's one of the companies, I don't know if it's Huawei, it might even be Xiaomi, I don't know, but they're now talking about 320-watt charging. So the technology has existed for a while, not 320, but 45 watts. Yeah, I think my Zen phones, they 30-watt charging, but the charger came in the box, so that was nice. So yeah, it's more of a, hey, I guess I'm glad Apple finally got on board with some of the stuff, but at the same time, why did they take so long to do it? But also at the same time, people continue to buy the stuff because they just aren't aware that, better exists. But Apple will just spoon feed you, trickle, trickle, trickle. Here's one little thing. Here's one little thing. But yeah, 45 watts. I mean, cool. I'm glad that it's on the phone. But for a $1,000 phone, like what he's holding in his hand right now, it should be better, in my opinion.
5-watt wireless charging instead of 15. On the inside, these phones have the A18 and A18 Pro chips. And again, I'd be lying if I told you I just noticed any difference right out the box. And I think basically anybody would. But yes, they will benchmark 10, 20, 30% faster depending on what you ask it to do. But the extra power is definitely more about fringe activities, high-end stuff, future-proofing. I was actually more curious, though, to find that all of the models have 8 gigs of RAM now. So the Pro phones and the non-Pro phones, which usually have different amounts. No doubt this is because the Apple Intelligence features, when they eventually ship, are going to need every last bit of it. But for now, hey, you can enjoy more RAM for all your other apps, too.
Now, I don't really care, to be honest with you. I care enough to make this video and possibly edit it. But if we're just looking in the realm of iPhone, he points out the fact that, in the past, the amount of RAM in these devices used to be different. And yeah, 6 gigs of RAM in a phone, yeah, I'm sure that's fine. I think that's what it was, 6 for the regular, 8 for the Pro, for the last couple of years, whatever. But okay, Apple, if you're going to increase the amount of RAM in the regular, I think you need to increase the amount of RAM in the Pro. I mean, it just seems like that is almost an obvious. I mean, case in point, one, yes, we all get up in arms about the fact that Apple still sells a MacBook, even if it's the Air, and starts at 8 gigs of RAM. Like, yes, we all know. We get upset about that. But we get even more bothered by that 14-inch MacBook Pro that starts with 8 gigs of RAM. Because, it's a Pro device, so it should start with more RAM. Same thing with the phone. You increase the amount in the regular, cool. You need to also increase the amount in the Pro. Just seems like that's the logical thing to do, but it's also Apple. But then, with 20 million subscribers, I also think that maybe, hey, but I know he, sponsorships, what he can and can't say, I know. But yeah, if you're going to increase it in the regular one, you need to increase it in the Pro as well.
iOS 18 launched with these new phones too. So I made an entire separate video about iOS 18, all the new features. That's what's rolling out to everybody's older iPhones as well now too. So you can put your home screen icons wherever. You can color your home screen icons. You can change your lock screen shortcuts. Basically customize the iPhone a bit more than ever before. You could argue this makes a bigger difference to the iPhone than any of the other hardware stuff. But yeah, I'll link that full video below. But
excuse me. That was disgusting. So what's on the screen, in my opinion, and I honestly forgot that this screen, they showed this, but I think he might be saying, that the customization is more important than any of the hardware changes. Yeah, maybe. Don't know. Each individual user's experience is going to vary. But the one thing that I think is more important than any, it's the most important thing since the iPhone 4, because it's hey, we can change what you do, how you interact with your phone. You take better pictures because the cameras are improved, or higher refresh rate, always on display. It's a little bit faster. Remove the headphone jack, whatever. Things that affect how you interact with the phone. But from my perspective, what's even more important than that is how you, the user, use the phone to interact with the world. So with the iPhone 4, you get the front-facing camera, which, selfies, cool, but FaceTime. Prior to FaceTime, I would use Skype on my laptop, and I'd be stationary, But with FaceTime, even though when it first started, it was, when it first started, it was only Wi-Fi, and then at some point you could start using it over cellular connection, which for the most part, I still only use it over Wi-Fi. But that was, hey, we are going to fundamentally change how you interact with the world, how you use this mobile device to interact with the world. Same thing with iMessage. iMessage just made the messaging experience more seamless. I mean, things like that already existed, but Apple did a nice job of bundling it into its default messaging app. And then, look, everybody else who has an iPhone gets to share this experience with you. So it's how you interact with the world. But what came along with iOS 18? RCS. That's another way that the way you interact with the world has now changed for iPhone and Android users. Because as an Android user, I've been using RCS for years now. But every time that, I'd message iPhone friends, or if they send pictures or videos or whatever, I'd say, hey, do you mind sending it through WhatsApp? But now with this, and I pestered quite a few people this past week to update their phone so that way my experience was better. I think this is the most important thing to happen to iPhone since the front-facing camera. So customization, cool. Even USB-C, which I'm happy they finally changed, that changed how you, the user, interacted with the device, not how you, the user, use the device to interact with the world. So RCS, in my opinion, most important thing in a decade to happen to the iPhone.
of new hardware, there is one other new button. So I guess nobody at Apple is allowed to call it a button, but I'm going to call it a button. So this is the new camera control button on all of the new iPhone 16s. I've used and played with and thought a lot about this button. And it all comes down to smartphone cameras in general. My take is that smartphone cameras are like headphones EQ. Like you get a new pair of headphones out the box and you listen to them, you don't like them. Oh, no, don't worry. That's just one of the ways that these headphones can sound. You can change the EQ and it'll sound like a totally different pair of headphones. And that's also true with smartphone cameras this year more than ever with the iPhone. So the default photos from the iPhone look more iPhone-y than ever. Remember how every year in the blind smartphone camera test, the iPhone loses because it kind of overly brightens all the shadows and it doesn't have as much contrast? Yeah, it's still doing that, especially in photos with people in it. But the purpose of this new button has been made very clear, and it's kind of a theme for the whole phone, which is, well, camera control. This year, Apple's kind of just giving back control of the camera to users in an interesting way. But you have to know how to use it. Like, you have to know that it...
Okay, so honestly, originally I was going to just cut all this out, but it looks like this video of mine might be an hour. I don't know. Because, he will say something and I feel like I need to respond. So literally that last sentence right there is, yeah, Apple is giving you more control, but you have to know how to use it. So that goes back to my conversation about his perspective on Sony phones, calling them enthusiast phones. Point and shoot is what people use. Okay, that's point and shoot. But Apple to then put this button on the device and then people have to learn how to use it. I mean, I feel that's kind of like an enthusiast feature. Like, oh, what Apple is giving you out of the box isn't good enough. So, maybe we should give the user more upfront control over whatever it is that they're doing with their camera. Now, I will say in a couple of minutes, he does go on and admit that most people probably will just use the button as a button and just move on with their life. But from a company perspective, I kind of feel like everything that he said about the Sony devices directly now applies to this device. And we don't get the same level of, not necessarily scrutiny, but it's just, oh, well, Apple did it now, so I guess it's mainstream. And we just move on. We just move on with life. So yeah, I think it's somewhat confusing too, like, because I don't really adjust the settings when I'm using my phone's camera. So I would also be like, man, I don't really care to take the time to do all this stuff, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But I think I want to just bring it up again because if it's an enthusiast feature on a Sony device, mind you, Sony's been putting that little camera button on their phones at least for 8 years. I don't know the first one that actually received it, but that's not an enthusiast feature for Sony. That's more just, it's a staple of their product. Whereas Apple does it now, and we're just like, oh, have you seen the new button on the iPhone? Yeah, of course. Okay, whatever.
Double half press with just the right weight to bring up the sliding menu of camera controls for things like exposure compensation and zoom and photographic styles and tone. And then play with it enough to realize that tone is actually maybe the most important one, where turning up tone actually removes shadows even more, but turning down tone brings real shadows back, but it doesn't seem to have a memory, so you have to remember to set it every time you open the camera app. But you also have this D-pad that lets you change even more elements of a photo, including undertones and mood and color, and really mess around and dial in the look of the photos you want. And this one does have memory, so every subsequent time you open the camera, it'll remember your color hue and tone. So I've found that tone at around minus 0.5 is a nice balance for most photos that I've been taking. Feels less flat, more contrasty. This is all really useful to me, and combined with the actual new cameras on the phones,
I would just like to say that kind of sounds like an enthusiast to me, just throwing it out there.
This has risen the iPhone back to the top of my personal favorite rankings of smartphones to shoot with.
Again, another enthusiast, more so than just a consumer who would like a smartphone that has a dedicated button to quickly, or to allow them to quickly open their camera app.
Like having more control over the camera.
Again, sounds like an enthusiast.
For control. But it is really finicky. Like the placement on the side of the phone for the button is mostly ideal for landscape but would definitely be easier to reach if it was closer to the corner. But if we're being honest, most people take photos and videos in portrait these days, and the corner would be horrible for portrait, so they split the difference and moved it up a bit so you could reach it, but it's still not great. And the half press sensitivity takes some time to really get used to. I'm on week 3 now, and I'm still accidentally taking pictures by tapping too hard. And the scrolling, it has momentum physics, and you can accidentally scroll too far and go past the thing you were targeting in this more continuous scrolling interface. It is just finicky enough and just hidden enough that I honestly think like 99% of people will never use this for anything other than just a camera shutter.
Yeah, so I'm happy he at least said that. Not that I care so much, but it really is just like, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. But given the fact that it can do so much, this really seems like an enthusiast level feature, in my opinion, compared to, again, just a button that opens the camera app, allows you to focus on your target, and then you press it a little bit further, allows you to actually capture the photo. This, in my opinion, is the definition of an enthusiast level feature. However, because it's on the iPhone, now it's just mainstream.
And I guess that's fine too. I personally did quickly get used to opening the camera quickly with the camera control button. And so I remapped my action button to something else, my Tasks app. And I've also remapped my lock screen shortcut, so it's now flashlight and my Tasks app again.
And mind you, as I said before, Apple chose to have the double click of the home button, or whatever you want to call it now, the lock button, I should say, to interface or allow you to use Apple Pay. Apple could allow you, they could have allowed you to remap that to something else. I don't have an iPhone on me right now to check to see if under the accessibility features, if I can remap double press to something other than that. But the fact that we're like, okay, I can't remap that button to do something else, but we now have this action button, which it sounds like that's what he and some people use to open the camera. However, we do have the little buttons on the home screen, which I think until iOS 18, you couldn't change those to be something else. So now he's changed the action button and the little icons on the home screen. And then, of course, you can just swipe right or left or whatever direction from the lock screen to quickly open the camera app. But it just seems like I hate when we use the word customize, when I feel like, yes, technically that is an accurate thing, but it's a computer, so it's things you should be able to change things. I don't want to. Oh, you can customize. That's what Android's about. You can customize. No, it's a freaking supercomputer. You should be able, and I know it's not, but it's a extremely powerful pocket PC that you should be able to do stupid, simple things like, oh, I don't like this digital button here on this screen, whether it's what's on the lock screen or the apps on your home screen. I should be able to put them where I want. But the whole point of me even stopping it right here is that, yeah, Apple decided to put a whole nother button on the phone because I feel like you can't dedicate that lock button to do something other than Apple Pay.
You can always just swipe over sideways from the lock screen and get to the stock camera app. So if you really want, you can map the camera control button to open any other camera app on your phone. Or just keep waiting for Apple Intelligence features that this will probably make more sense for. So yeah, long story short, 1, it's a button. 2, it's also a customization slider. 3, is just going to be a button for most people. But also 4, there are new cameras on the back. So there's a bunch of new cameras across the line for both iPhone 16 and 16 Pro. Best way to summarize it. Okay, so iPhone 16 cameras are nice. Like, they're pretty solid main cameras, very much in character with iPhones of the past, but not noticeably better than previous years. And then the 16 Pro cameras with the much bigger main sensor and the higher resolution ultra wide and the 5x telephoto are a significant step up, in my opinion. The main camera, I think, is my favorite primary sensor in any smartphone to shoot with right now. It's really good at basically everything. The ultra wide is also better, but kind of only in detail during the daytime, since the 48 megapixel sensor now. But the sensor's not bigger enough to matter at night though, and now my night ultra-wides all look kind of vignetted for some reason. I mean, look at that. It looks like I added a filter. But then the 5x telephoto on both the Pros is also nice now. And there is some chatter about it being worse at the 3x to 4x range because you're still having to do digital zoom. And technically that's true, but I find the 5x to be a pretty useful zoom. And it's also better at resolving all the detail past 5x than before, even without AI. Shutter speeds are super fast and freeze action better than ever before. This is kind of underrated, but I love this. Like, this shot came from a moving car at highway speed, and so did this one. So that's sick.
So I don't take a ton of photos, but I will say I do like a smartphone's camera that does allow you, I guess, to have extremely fast shutter speed. Because the one thing I like to do is when people, oh, hey, group photo, hey, can you take a picture of us or whatever? And sure, no problem. And I feel like the older generation is like, okay, let me take one picture. And I'm like, when I get the camera, I'm like, okay, yeah, you guys are I'll start taking pictures before they're even ready, because it's like, hey, some of these shots might be fun, whatever. And then if I can do it quickly because shutter speeds are fast, then that's great. And then also when it comes to storage, it's like we're not actually having to go develop film. So just tap away, tap away. So I guess that's cool that shutter speed on this is noticeably faster, I guess.
And the ease at which you can get a shallow depth of field with a close-up subject is on par with any other big sensor Android flagship like S24 Ultra or Pixel 9 Pro. And no, Apple has absolutely not fixed the lens flare issue with point lights at night. So for those who are wondering, sorry. But aside from that, video is very impressive. I'll be publishing the next autofocus video on the Silverado EV pickup truck pretty soon, so subscribe over there for that, first of all. But that's going to be shot entirely on iPhone 16 Pro, and I've been very happy with it. And Apple also added a 4K 120 FPS mode to the Pro phones, and it's sick. It looks...
And don't quote me, because I honestly don't remember, because again, I did not go back and take a look at his videos this particular time, but I do believe he pointed out, I feel like he said that Sony's video cameras could record in 4K at 120, and he was like, oh, that's the enthusiast level feature. Don't quote me, because I didn't take the time this time to go back and look, but I feel like he pointed out the quality of what you could do with their stuff. And, the iPhone can do it now, so I guess it's just a mainstream feature, right? I mean, I guess that's how it works sometimes, but whatever.
It is really convenient to shoot and edit. The only thing you got to be careful with is storage, because it can really eat up storage. Like, you can get up to near a gig a minute, and that's before you even do 4K 120 ProRes or ProRes log. But yeah, I still love shooting it anyway. It also...
Okay, so he said a gig a minute, not even at the highest quality setting. So I said it at the beginning of the video, all right? And yeah, I don't fault Apple as much because they never included some type of removable or expandable storage. But wouldn't that be nice? I mean, wouldn't that be nice? And even though these cameras have definitely been good over the years, it wasn't until last year and it's just the Pro last year and this year that received USB 3 through their charging port to get those videos off the phone in a relatively quick manner. And I've said it before, I feel like a lot of this is repeating myself, and you get different viewers, whatever. But there are going to be people who are in multiple camps of, oh, well, yes, Apple wants you to use AirDrop to get stuff off the iPhone because, of course, you have a Mac, right? Which, even if you do have a Mac, cool, great. I have a Mac. I'm using it right now. AirDrop is slow, comparably speaking to a USB 3 or faster wired connection. AirDrop is slow. And I don't know why. If we have Wi-Fi 6 radios, antennas, whatever in both devices, AirDrop should be relatively fast. I know there's a lot of handshakes and when things are wireless, there's a bunch of other packets and things that need to get transferred. I know that, but even with that being the case, it should still be significantly faster than it is. So even that's, in my opinion, not a viable solution. And even though right now he's talking about the Pro phones people record crap with the regular phones. You know, you don't need a pro phone to want to record videos. And I don't know how big those file sizes are going to be, but after a while, even if it's a bunch of small videos, they still add up. And the fact that in 2024, this $800 phone, yes, finally has a USB-C port, but whether it's USB-C or Lightning, it doesn't make any sense that it still transfers speed at USB 2 speeds. Mind you, that standard came out in the year 2000. So it is 24 years old, and Apple is still putting that in its flagship level device. So if I could sum up this little section, it's, oh, yes, file sizes have gotten larger over the years. What would be nice? Some type of expandable storage. And that goes for all the companies. The Pixel, the Galaxy, even my little Zen phone right here, the iPhone, yeah, for all of them. Don't make me have to make that storage decision at buy time. You just shouldn't have to. But you know what does have expandable storage? Which this young man right here, hey, I think he's 30 and I call him a young man. What he said was a enthusiast feature. Expandable storage. It's not an enthusiast feature. It just makes sense. And I would ask anybody, him included, why would that be considered an enthusiast feature? But we get, myself included, we get up in arms if we buy a laptop, i.e. a MacBook, or I bought a Samsung, the Qualcomm version, the Galaxy Edge 4, whatever it's called, laptops that don't have upgradable storage. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Why wouldn't a manufacturer make a laptop that allows me to upgrade the SSD later on? How is this any different? I mean, granted, yeah, we're not going to be able to open the phone and remove the ROM. That's the actual soldered on storage. I get that, but hey, a little slot in there just to expand it on out. You know what? Here's another terabyte. Let me go ahead and just throw that in my phone, and I'm good to go. And then hey, let me get some of that stuff off. Boom. USB 3 speeds right on over to my computer. And, for the, my personal opinion, what would be nice, which, Apple has the data, but, whatever. Fine. Put USB 3 on the regular, and that could be 5 gig, and put 10 gig. And I think it's, is it 10 gig or is it 20 gig that's on the Pro? I don't know. But there's different versions of USB 3, so we could have done that. But, whatever. I guess only enthusiasts deserve those types of things.
Proves to me that they have the processing power and the sensor readout speed to do 8K 30. They just choose not to.
I mean, that sounds like something enthusiasts would want anyway, because 8K 30, cool. What are you watching it on that you would even benefit from 8K footage? I mean, the screen certainly isn't 8K. It's other screens that anybody would have and their daily use cases that they would use on a daily basis wouldn't be 8K displays. So it's not an enthusiast phone. So why would we have 8K on it? I guess is the point that I'm trying to make, facetiously, of course.
And I wonder why sometimes. This is also the first year they're using the term fusion camera, and you kind of have to dig in a little bit to try to figure out what that means. Turns out it's basically the same thing as last year's punch-in optical quality zoom, but with a slightly updated image processing pipeline. Cool. But also that zoom is not technically one-to-one optical quality because the photo sites are smaller in that smaller crop. Nevertheless, iPhone 16 camera, good. iPhone 16 Pro camera, great. There is something truly weird about this product being launched at an Apple event called Glow Time and not launching with the thing that glows, the new Siri. There's something weird about people happily going out to a Fifth Avenue Apple store this week, which is literally glowing with rainbows now, and walking out with a brand new phone that doesn't have that.
Yeah, and personally, I feel that Apple is the only company that can do this, that can rant and rave about what makes this phone more special than not just their previous phone, but other phones on the market. And just not release the software to go along with it. Only Apple. Like that. Only Apple can do that. So, interesting.
Something just off about billboards and marketing material and all highlighting Apple Intelligence. And Tim Cook saying this was the first phone built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence.
The next generation of iPhone has been designed for Apple Intelligence from the ground up.
Yet this phone does not have Apple Intelligence at all. It's all coming soon and coming later this year and into next year eventually with software updates. But if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Never buy a product based on the promise of future software updates. Buy it for what it is right now when you buy it. That's been the golden rule for forever. But yet, here we are. Times have changed. This has been a common trend alongside AI, and you think Apple might be immune to it, but they're not. They're a public company, and just like lots of other public companies, they've sort of caved to this pressure that they have to appear like an AI first, AI forward company, like a leader in AI. So they have presented a ton of AI stuff that they're working on. And they've done the song and dance of like, hey, we are AI first, and the phone was built from the ground up for AI. It's our whole theme this year. But the fact of the matter is, it's not good yet. It's not. That's actually not even finished. If it was, they'd be shipping it. But it's in beta, and they're still working on it, and they'd rather keep working on it than ship it to you now.
And yeah, I gotta say, it's hard for me to even talk about AI stuff because I really just don't care. But I do agree with everything that he's pointing out right now. They started talking about it. Tim Cook says that this phone has been designed from the ground up to support Apple Intelligence, but it's not available. And then also, I wonder what is the experience going to be for those who have an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, because that's also going to get Apple Intelligence support. Is it going to be that much different? I honestly doubt it. So then I really do wonder what's more so different with this particular product that came out this year compared to the Pro series and what came out last year. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, give it a couple more months, weeks, whatever. I don't know.
So, how do we square this? Do we even square this? You remember the Rabbit R1? The Rabbit was a little AI in a box. Pretty classic 2024 product. When I reviewed that Rabbit, it was basically useless. Like literally almost none of the functionality was working as it shipped. And so I said so in the review. Same with the Humane AI pin. Really, really, really bad product, missing almost all of its functionality. Worst product I'd ever reviewed for now. Both of those products have started to get some updates since I reviewed them. But again, I can only review what's in front of me. Like I got that thing in the mail just like real customers are going to get that thing in the mail. And now it feels like the new iPhone is suddenly in the same boat. So I guess the difference between the Rabbit and the Humane pin and the iPhone is, well, one, the iPhone is a fine standalone product even without the promised stuff, and it's buyable and usable, where the other two, not so much.
And I do agree with that statement, kind of, as I said at the beginning of the video, that an iPhone's an iPhone, and even if it's an incremental update from the previous year, it's still an iPhone. It's not what I prefer to use, but I do see why people use them, and yeah, it's a solid device, minus all of this AI stuff.
Two is that Apple, at least now, has some element of a track record of developing and shipping things that they promised.
I agree with that statement as well.
Where Humane and Rabbit didn't. So you could argue there's some dimension of trust to this, and that Apple is really leaning heavily on how much you trust them. Because, to be honest, to me, it's really bold to be shipping the product like this without any of these big things that you're promising. Like, they must really believe in themselves to eventually ship this stuff so that people aren't mad. But yeah, that's the AI world we live in, I guess, is that everyone has this pressure to feel like a leader in AI and be shipping all these new features and stuff, but a lot of it, not that good yet, not that done yet. So I'm planning an entire separate review of Apple Intelligence as a whole when it comes out. I've been using some of the features in 18.1 beta on my 15 Pro, but even this is really limited. Like, it's basically just writing tools and the new Siri animation, but they have a long way to go. I'll say get subscribed to see the Apple Intelligence review when it drops, when it's done, because clearly it's a big part of this phone. So, you made it this far into the video, or you skipped ahead to this chapter because you just really wanted an answer on if you should buy these phones or not. Fine.
So, first thing I'll say, in fact, let me let him, since I paused it. And I think this is why I scrutinize, I guess. I mean, if I had the phone in my own hands, then I might do some testing. Probably not, because I don't enjoy doing that, really, to be honest with you. But because he knows, and I know, because I even come to his YouTube channel sometimes to get opinions. Like, now I don't. I'm just like, okay, if it's something I want, I'm going to go get it, regardless of what Marquez says or Mr. Who's the Boss or literally anybody else. Like, if it's something I'm not familiar with, then I might need some help. Like, for instance, I'm considering buying an eGPU. Never bought one before, so don't know if it's worth the time to go buy the actual GPU and then the enclosure and then hope that it works fine with the machine that I'm working or using right here, which I'm pointing at even though you can't see it, or just buy another laptop that has dedicated graphics, built into it. I don't know. Never done it before. So that's something that I would go to dig definitely to another tech reviewers page to see exactly what their experience is. But, having bought iPhones since the iPhone 4 and whatever my first smartphone was, an HTC Aria back in 2010, I believe, if not 11. And yeah, so it's just like, whatever. So if you are watching his video or even my video to get my opinions, it's a fine phone. And that's all I did. It's fine. At this point, an iPhone is an iPhone. It's a solid device. I think that is how I would sum up a review if I were actually reviewing the video, because it's nothing new. Nothing different about it at all.
Either way. So, okay. You should buy the iPhone 16 if you're on an iPhone 13 or older and that phone is on its last legs and you're really looking for an upgrade to a new iPhone. Fine.
And I think I know I mentioned this at the beginning of my video that, iPhone 13, it's a couple years old, but at the same time, it's still supported. And I would question if somebody did say, well, yeah, my iPhone or any phone in general is on its last leg. Well, what does that actually mean? I mean, if the screen is jacked up and you've had different bouts of water damage and, it's actually breaking, then yeah, cool. But as I said before, if it's just, the battery doesn't hold a charge anymore, then go get a new battery. I was listening to the Vergecast this morning, and one of the callers calls in and is like, "Oh yeah, can you kind of convince me? Like, I guess is it worth it to upgrade from a 13 mini to a 16? Because like me, that individual enjoys smaller phones." And yeah, it sucks because I had a 12 mini, and then nothing has been that small since. I mean, this is close. Actually, this is really close. But yeah, other than that, everything is just bigger. Just like, man, how am I going to adjust to these large phones? Because people complain about phones getting too big, yet people continue to buy them. So it doesn't look like I really have much of a choice anymore. So again, 13 still supported. If you need a new battery, go get a new battery. I will say be aware of the fact that with these new phones in the United States, one positive is that now you charge via USB-C, which could be a negative to you if you don't have any other USB-C devices. For people like myself, I was able to easily integrate my iPhone 15 into the rest of my landscape because everything else, for the most part, that I used charges via USB-C. The other thing, which is definitely a negative in my opinion, is that these phones no longer have SIM card trays. So everything is eSIM only. I have nothing wrong or nothing against eSIMs at all, but I feel like you should still have the choice to just say, you know what, let me just easily swap my phone and put a SIM card in this one as opposed to this one. I know that when you are sticking with the same platform, that process is usually pretty straightforward. What have I done? I've swapped eSIMs on Pixels. And of course, I've activated eSIMs on Android and iOS. So not a problem. Did I convert? Yeah, in fact, I've swapped eSIMs, and I believe, I recently converted a physical SIM to an eSIM. I think I did that. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, simple stuff to do when you're staying in the same ecosystem. But when you are swapping between the two of them, it can get a little difficult. I don't know if there's a dedicated app, because I feel like both carriers or both companies and carriers would have to support eSIM transfer, not only between devices running the same operating system, but then definitely devices running different operating systems. So, because that was another video I made that I didn't know that whatever carrier I was using for that brief period of time did not support eSIM transfer. And I was like, what the? Okay. So I paid like the $10 for that 1 month, and I just kept it moving.
Anything newer, and it probably won't feel like it's worth an upgrade. And you should buy the iPhone 16 Pro if you really want a better phone in cameras or displays. That's really the two places where the Pro shines over the regular phone. The cheap iPhone really has never looked better, honestly. It has the camera control. It matches the RAM of the more expensive Pros.
Which again, I feel if Apple increased the amount of RAM in the Pro phone, they should have, increased the amount of RAM in the regular phone. They should have also increased the amount of RAM in the Pro phone. Just seems to make sense to me.
It has the more interesting colors if you're into that. It has the action button now too, and it has the same brightness of a display, and it also goes all the way down to 1 nit, just like the Pro screen. Now, I personally cannot use a 60 hertz, $800 phone in 2024.
Yeah, I agree that for $800, Apple should not have a 60 hertz display, but, and this is where we just give them passes, and he even said it earlier in the video, I believe, Apple coined a high refresh rate Pro Motion. So it's a Pro level feature, not going to come to a non-Pro device. If what Pro Motion is changes, let's say becomes 240 hertz, I don't know if that's something we would ever do on smartphones, don't know, or even 144 hertz, 165, I don't know, something higher than 120, then maybe the regular phone will just come up probably like to 90 hertz, or maybe I don't know. But because it's been coined Pro Motion, the likelihood of a non-Pro device getting it, slim to none. Same thing on the Mac as well. And I guess on the iPad too.
I just can't do it. And there are lots of people just like me who will immediately have to upgrade to the Pro just for that. But there are also tons of people who don't even notice or care about Pro Motion, which I know it's kind of hard to wrap my head around too. But for those people, yeah, the base phone is going to be great. But then as someone who shoots a lot of photos and videos and social media stuff, the autofocus channel, between all of that, the cameras are better enough on the Pros for that to be worth the upgrade for me.
And once again, I guess one of the main points of this whole video is he sounds like an enthusiast. I mean, I'm not saying that the iPhone Pro is for enthusiasts, because at this point I think it is sometimes their highest selling device, but you're just saying enthusiast.
I still say buy it for what it is today, not for what it could be tomorrow. And even without any of the AI stuff maybe ever coming to these phones, they're still rock solid, very, very incremental upgrades. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
All right, so yeah, I guess I do it. I mean, yeah, I agree with a lot of what he says, but that button, okay, it's a mainstream thing now. File sizes for media, it continues to get larger, yet expandable storage isn't a thing. For the Pro phone, finally, getting that media off the device can be quick if you have the right cable and the right USB-C port, or a USB-C or USB-A port on your laptop or desktop. So I guess why did I make this video? Well, one, because interesting here, and I just wanted to give my feedback on his feedback about these phones. But two, as a non-iPhone user, I feel like the amount of attention and I guess passes that they get when they do certain things, I'm just like, I don't know. Okay. But now that I'm an hour in, and I doubt I'm going to really edit much of this because I know I'm not going to feel like it. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it before I upload it. They're good phones, you know? And I would say, yeah, if you're in the market for buying a new iPhone, then yeah, why not? I don't think I'm going to get it, mainly because I literally just gave my 15 to my mom because I was like, I'm not going to use this anymore. So I don't feel like there's a reason for me to get an iPhone 16. Can't guarantee that I'm not going to get it, but with, and as I said before, with iOS 18 and the iPhone now supporting RCS, I don't feel left out the way that I did before. So as an Android user, I feel more included with the majority of the people that I communicate with because that messaging experience is now better. So I say thank you to Marquez for doing this extensive review. If you happen to make it to an hour into this video, great, thanks. Like, comment, subscribe. I guess that's all I can really say. And it's late here, so I'm going to be going to sleep soon.